We are live.
Yay, we're live.
Am I pixelated?
A little bit. Not bad. Not
In and out,
terrible.
in and out, in and out. It happens. Welcome to Double Funnel TV. I'm going to eventually write one of those morning things, or the first thing you say, it's like, this is Double Funnel TV, where we are.
You mean like an intro video?
Yeah, I can't do an intro video, but you can like memorize the intro and say it every time.
You could do that.
So much effort so early in the morning. But today is Friday, so it's less about double funnels and learning to double your funnels with sales techniques, because not everything can be digital. Some of
True.
the stuff is old school, belly to belly over the phone. And that is where Scott comes in with his magnificent, super smart, although somewhat, what did we talk about? Like the things we know we should be doing, and we're
Common
still not.
sense. Common sense, but no, but people don't train common sense, so it doesn't. It's not so common if it's not used consistently. People make selling way too hard. Way too hard. Bottom line, foundationally, it's about relationships. And if you think about sales presentation, or you think about everything is a sale, because by definition, it's simply the exchange of information. All you're doing is educating and informing someone of a potential position for their consideration to either accept or deny. So, I mean, I don't even think that people understand, relationships, dating. When I teach at colleges, it's one of the really fun times, because you've got a room full of however old they are, right? You got a whole room full of them, and you sit and you ask the question, how many of you are in sales? And none of them say they're in sales, for the most part. And so then I say, okay, let me just totally go off the reservation here. How many of you would like more dates? And invariably, the vast majority of hands go up. I said, that's a sale. So the point is that it's just, for the most part, sales is how the definition of sales is in the individual's framing of it within their head, within their brain. How do they look at it? Is selling a good thing? Is selling a bad thing? Those are judgments. It is neither good nor bad. It's just a thing.
Just a thing.
And so that's why I think a lot of people get wrapped around the axle. They get all excited and contemplative over what should just be a conversation for the most part. So therefore, communication and learning how to communicate and learning how to elicit questions and problem solve, those are all part of a selling process, which you can say is also part of a presentation process. So again, when we're doing Double Funnel TV and we're talking about your funnels and your outbound marketing by definition is simply the organized announcement of your activities. It's a pretty good definition. I just made that up, but I kind of like it.
I was trying to wrap my head around that. Be organized. I got it.
Well, but that's really what it is. So again, if we come back and we simplify, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we tend, in a world where people buy from those they perceive to be the authority, we work to establish ourselves as priority by or authority by word choice and pounding our chest a little bit and talking about how wonderful we are and we've all our accomplishments and all of that is kind of irrelevant. It's, can you solve my problem today? That's really what selling is. And so from a digital marketing side, can we get somebody to raise their hand that says, I have a particular issue. Oh, this landing page seems to acknowledge that I have that issue. Wow, I think this could help me solve this issue. What do I do next? Right? And I know it sounds simplistic, but that's what people have lost for the most part, is they're trying to be very tricky in the entire process. And you don't have to be tricky. You just have to be real. You have to be open and honest and vulnerable and have a desire to truly serve, which is why when we come back in some of the conversations you and I have had about mindset, the reason mindset is so important is because it makes, you're in control of it, number one, but the other side of it is, if you have to truly have a desire to solve people's problems, but that has to be a true desire, because if you don't have a true desire to solve people's problems, you won't do as much business or you won't have as much opportunity. Does that make some sense?
It does. I'm going to go to, I was pulling up, I posted it, but it was from the private Facebook group that we have. When we talk about Double Funnel TV, if y'all guys are not in there, it is the Fembot Army for Warfare Marketing. But Scott went in there and he was like, guys, you know, what do y'all want me to help you with? And Timothy had one that says, I'm a little shy. I have a fear of sales rejection. In your professional capacity, please teach us the art of always be closing.
Well, I think that's interesting. And I certainly appreciate that. There's a lot in that. So let me deconstruct it for a second.
There is a lot in that.
I mean, there really is. So the point is, the first statement, I'm a little shy. So here's somebody who has self-evaluated that they're not maybe comfortable making presentations or talking to people or doing things like that. And yet the end of the question is very sales trainer-ish, meaning some sales trainer somewhere or some boss
or movie,
right? Glengarry Glen Ross, right, has impressed upon this person that they need to always be closing, that it's all about the close and da 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 da. Well, you can never. I was doing a training in front of a room full of about, I don't know, a couple hundred people, and a woman stood up and said, we got to questions and answers and, let it fly. And she says, I give the best presentations. I mean, I am totally on script. What the company has given us and asked us to share, I have got down pat. And I present it really well. She goes, I'm not trying to be egotistical. I'm just trying to state that I have taken the tools that have been handed to me and I'm really good at sharing them. And yet when I close the sale, nobody buys. Can you help me? I said, absolutely. Stop trying to close those that haven't been opened.
Closing those who haven't been opened, because we've kind of talked about this before.
Right. Well, that's why, but it comes back to this, but it's important. So the CEO jumped up and yelled, That's brilliant. And I actually responded, no, that's common sense. But it made me realize that common sense is not so common. So somebody gives somebody a sales training script, or gives somebody a sales script, right? And said, this is what works. Do this. And they do that in an effort to help that person. And that can help that person, provided it's presented in the right sequence and the person they're talking to is opening to hearing it. But what far too many people do is they make a premature presentation. And nobody likes premature. So the, so the point is that it's out of sequence. You might have all the right things to say, but if they're said at the wrong time, they're no longer the right things to say. So again, that's why revisiting this is important. So when when a boss says to you, I want you to always be closing. If that's what's totally ingrained in you, you tend to skip past some of the nurturing steps and some of the opening steps and some of the qualification steps and some of the things that will actually help you get there easier. And so then you have presumed failure. You know, I mean, you ask for the order and they say no. And you go, see, none of this stuff works. And that is not the truth. It probably actually all works done the right way. It's not that nobody is training you to do something that doesn't work. But what probably is more likely happening is either how you frame it in your head,
which is terrible.
Which is
terribly.
Yeah. So as an example, let's go back into the question. I'm a little shy and have a fear of sales rejection. First of all, those are two totally independent thoughts. They are not dependent. What I mean by that is, if you're a little bit shy, you're a little bit shy. Okay. I'm actually kind of shy until I know somebody. So I actually sit back and I listen a lot and I ask a lot of questions and I do that, and I don't talk much until I do. So I get that. And there are a lot of people like that. But I have the second part of that statement is I have a fear of sales rejection. Rejection only resides within one place. That's you. Nobody can reject you except you. Nobody can take a no and log it into your brain as rejection except you. A no is just a no. And a yes is just a yes. No more, no less. And you understand where some of this starts to, because it's weird again, I tend to coach and train intuitively, but what just came to me is, why is there confusion? Baby, it's cold outside. Oh my God, now we've applied an entirely different message. Well, I went there because it's confusing people. It's what they choose to assign to those words. It's not what was intended by the words. The author of that musical piece, who's now passed, but his daughter has said, that is nowhere close to what my father intended. None. You're assigning something different to the words.
Well, part of it is context. It's like us trying to read Shakespeare right now. And we don't understand the context of some of these colloquial terms. Like, think about all the weird terms we use now. If I said somebody, what does my daughter say? I've seen on the internet, like, are you woke? Like, meaning, are you paying attention to all the different issues going on in the day? And if somebody were to ask that 50 years ago, they'd be like, I'm awake, obviously. See, my eyes are open.
Yeah.
And I was reading the context. So his daughter wrote a piece on it, and she's like, women weren't allowed their own sexual freedoms outside of marriage. So the big line in the song is, what's in this drink? But back then, that was just a way for women to, like, joking around, saying, like, oh, what'd you put in this drink to make me do the things that I already want to do?
That's what I'm saying. It's the assignment, and this happens in sales. It's a prime example of why people get confused about this political correctness. I'm trying to be politically correct in how I explain political correctness. I mean, we have come so far that if somebody has a different opinion than yours, there are certain people who get really upset that you have your own opinion. You have your opinion. I don't have to like it. If I don't like it, I don't have to be around it. But I don't also have to campaign against it just because I don't like it. I mean, I can.
Now, how did that go back to sales? That's the fear of rejection?
Yeah, the fear of rejection. It's the assignment that you give to their statement. If you come from a pure intent, I have a product that solves a certain problem. This sales training solves a certain problem. There is no doubt about that fact. This is really valuable for somebody. Now, whether it's really valuable for you or not is dependent upon your breadth of experience, your expertise, how long you've been doing it, all those kinds of things. But as a sales trainer, number one, I understand what I do is tremendously valuable for certain people.
For certain people.
Now, if you say, yeah, this is just too elementary for me, which you have every right to say, then if I'm good at what I do, I say, what more would make it more specific to your situation? That's not rejection. You just gave me an
opening.
An opening. Remember when I did the training, at Warfare, at Warfare Marketing a couple weeks ago, I said, you've always got to be awake and looking for your openings. So if you say, well, this is pretty elementary, I don't get upset by it. I say, well, yeah, I kind of have to start there because I'm really good at a lot of stuff, but I'm terrible at reading minds. I don't know what you know and don't know. So I'm going to start at a level that I believe will be of service, but we can go as deep and as far as you want. Does that work for you? See, your statement to me, or I could get all offended and go, elementary? Are you kidding? This is foundational. Oh my God. No wonder she's a digital marketer, right? I mean, she can't do this in the real world. This is really, see, I can, you know what I'm saying? Is I can get all upset about it and then insult you. How's that working for either one of us? Probably not so well. Or I can go, oh, good, check. I know she's at this level, so now we can get a little deeper. Great, let me share what's deeper. So again, and similarly, in the mind of the person who posted this, who asked this question, They've tied shy with rejection. And they're two different situations. One is I just don't talk a lot, or I find it a little more difficult than others I've noticed, right? So I've noticed others have an easier time talking to people. That's great. They're not shy, I'm shy. Okay, that's in alignment. But I have a problem with sales rejection. Well, that's a choice, actually.
Okay, but I mean, that's a choice. But I think it's easy to kind of write it off and say it's a choice. What is the best way to get over that?
The best way to get over it is, number one, understand that it's within you. So you're in control of that. So you're in control. Live in your power, live in your space. Take this statement and internalize it. It's not what anybody says to you that counts. It's what you say to you after they stop talking that counts. So if you say, Scott, you suck as a sales trainer.
Ouch.
Well, it could be an ouch. Could be an ouch. Or I could say, well, Jen is doing that because she just wants to see how good I really am. Or I could say, oh my God, Jenna thinks I suck. Oh, why am I even trying to do this? This is crazy. Oh my, yeah, everything I've done in 40 years of selling is just lucky. You know what I'm saying? So it's not what you say to me. It's how I take what you say to me. And this is where this political correctness thing comes in, is we have to learn. A friend said it one day, and it's so poignant. Learn to be unoffendable. We're so offended as a nation. We're so offended by what everybody does. Learn to be unoffendable. You know what, Jenna? You have a storied career. You've done things I've never done, and I've done things I never will do. And so you've got a breadth of experience beyond mine in many areas. I really respect that. Now, I've done some things maybe that you haven't done. And hopefully you would respect my areas of expertise just as I respect your areas of expertise. Isn't that a lot easier way and better way of handling it?
Oh, tremendously.
So again, this is don't be offendable. You know, if somebody says to you, fear of rejection comes from somebody saying no, typically. And again, socially, we have some very confusing messages that are given off and have been since cavemen and woman times. You know, guys have misread things for a long time. This ain't new, right?
Not new.
Not new. So again, it's the exact same in a selling situation. One person could take a really, you make this rock star presentation to them, and all of a sudden they sit back and they lean back and they close their arms and they don't say a word. And you read that as all of a sudden, yeah, they've got all frumpy and nasty at you.
Hey, I got so
Or wait, hold please. Or they could be closing themselves off to filter all the information internally so that they can make a calm, cool decision to then lean back forward and go, you know what, you're right, let's do this. But if all of a sudden you read that as a negative, if you take every time that somebody says something to you as offensive or against you or derogatorily, you're going to lose a lot of business.
Well, one, it shuts you down. So if you take
Exactly.
it as a negative, like I remember I was having a bad day and I was giving a speech down at Digital Marketer in Austin, and I had to follow one of these people that had so much energy, and his mannerisms and his just level of awesomeness was reminding me of the Wolf of Wall Street, that movie, when he's on his game giving speeches. And that's what I had to follow up. And so I get up there and I'm like, man, I don't have the energy to do this today. And I get up there and I still do it. And I'm looking at the audience and I'm seeing everyone be really quiet and stare, and no one is smiling. And no, I'm just like getting all the most terrible feedback cues, in my opinion. And I'm thinking I'm doing a terrible job, and I keep on trying to up the ante. I'm trying to bring as much energy I can. I thought I had 30 minutes, I have an hour, and I'm going and I'm trying. It's peers. Peers to me are my most difficult crowd because they're so, I mean, they know what you're talking about. And I finished, I'm like, I flagged it. I completely flagged it. And then everyone else is like, what are you talking about? You killed it.
Yeah.
But you're like all like this. And they're like, because I can't even handle how much energy you're putting out there and how much information.
Right.
And I was trying to take notes, and then I just gave up because I can't write that fast. And I know you already have notes.
Exactly.
But if you take it as negative feedback, and I would have gotten pouty up there, I would have been a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Well, and that's exactly, so again, back to the question. I'm a little shy and I've got a fear of sales rejection. So that's self-fulfilling prophecy as well. See, if I say to you, Jenna, the training I do is been tremendously valuable for many organizations across a variety of industries, because it's really not about the product, goods, or services. It's about understanding we're all in the results business, and it's all about people. And so we focus on how to deal with people. Do you deal with people in your business? Well, then this training is absolutely ideal for you. And you say, but I don't know. Say, you know what, Jenna, I understand. I can appreciate that. I mean, I can go through a whole how to handle the objection sequence. But the point is, Jenna, does it seem like some of this might be valuable at some time? Yes. I tell you what, I'm in a 24/7, 365 forever business called the results business. When the time is right, let's get together and we'll help build your results. I don't have to be insulted by it. Again, all these things in selling come and tie back together. It's not any one thing. It's a combination of all the things. And so while some people are really good at memorizing closing questions, I think I've shared this before, but I was standing backstage with Brian Tracy one day, and Brian said, all of a sudden Brian said, I just came out with a new book with 121 closing questions. I said, wow, that's awesome. I got 2 questions. He goes, okay. I said, first of all, how do you remember 121 closing questions? That's a feat. And he goes, well, I don't use them all. I said, okay. How many do you use? And he said, well, it all depends on the situation. Why? How many closing questions do you have? I said, 1. He goes, you only have 1 closing question? I said, yeah, quite frankly, if I do the presentation right, that's all it should take. If I've given you the proper information, the only closing question I should ever need is, are you ready to get started? That's it. Because everything else should have taken place in the presentation process itself. And he goes, I really like that. So again, the point is that when it comes to always be closing, yes, that's true, but closing is really providing enough information and giving and gaining enough information to make the purchase a logical progression. That's all it really is. It's matching the needs, wants, and desires with the products, goods, and services. And it's closing that gap between the two. So if you have a need, and again, we'll be meeting this afternoon, and we'll talk about some of this stuff, but we all have desires to serve more people, but we have a gap. So we're going to meet to discuss potential solutions to close that gap so that we can all serve more people. Why should I be upset about that? Why should I be upset that you don't go, yeah, let's just do this thing? Well, because there's some consideration to go through, right? So again, I think part of it is the always be closing. Understand that always be closing is also a mindset. Always being closes means providing the appropriate solution to the person at the appropriate time.
Fair.
So I had somebody say to me one time, or they introduced me to an audience, and I actually took exception to it when I came on stage. They said, here's Scott Schilling. He's taken companies from 8 million to 100 million in 5.5 years. He's done a variety. This training is absolutely amazing that you're going to get to hear today. Oh, that's pretty cool, right? And then they said, and in fact, Scott is the only guy I know that can sell ice to Eskimos. Let's welcome to the stage. Well, my entire talk changed immediately. And that was because I had to, in my mind, I wanted to make sure of what that last statement actually, how that landed. I didn't say it. The person introducing me said it. So I came on stage and said, thank you, and some of the stuff that you normally do. And I said, I really appreciate the introduction that I was just given, but I want to make sure that you hear the second part of that statement. And only the first part was given. Mm-hmm. I can sell ice to Eskimos, and I'm going to teach you how. But I'm also going to teach you to only sell them the ice when they need it. That's the key. Mm-hmm. It's the second part of that he didn't say. And so the first inference is, I can make you do something you don't want to do. That's what that statement in the training business or in the sales business that's been the connotation of what that means. This guy can sell ice to Eskimos. This guy can sell anything to anybody. This guy, right? Right. And that's a true statement. My concern is that the recipient of that statement may look at that as, here's what they may hear, and I want to make sure that this is not in play. This guy can sell anything to anybody, whether they want it or need it. I don't ever want that second part. Okay. Which is why I say, well, a heart-centered sales professional is an educator, because sales is truly education through communication without manipulation. That's my heart-centered selling definition of sales. Education through communication without manipulation. That's a reframing of the sales process into being a teacher, an educator. It is our task to educate the people we're talking to by communicating very clearly, and sometimes even digitally, without manipulating them. It is our task to educate them on the features, advantages, and benefits of our products, goods, and services to satisfy their needs, wants, and desires. Does that make sense? That makes sense. That's actually... That kind of rolls into the next part. That was actually
So I asked the first part of Timothy's question. The second part was, after we overcome any objections, how do we actually ask the order and close the deal right then and there?
Well, this actually goes into how to handle the objections. And the process that I teach is called the AIR process, A-I-R. Acknowledge, isolate, re-question the question. AIR. So I teach with acronyms. The reason I do it is because people can typically grab onto the acronym. If they understand the acronym, they remember the process, okay?
Okay.
So an objection, and actually in the Empower Your Sales selling cycle, the W of Empower is welcome the storm. We actually want to welcome objections, because an unearthed objection is still an objection. If you don't like something I've said and you don't outwardly object to it, the only time I can respond to your feeling about that is when you say something about it. And so if you say, well, I don't like what, which is why when somebody introduces you as this guy can sell ice to Eskimos, your objection might be, well, hell, that's not who I am. I want to just solve people's problems. But because you didn't get a chance to say that as an audience member, I said it for you. I took away your potential objection, which is why, as we design presentations, we have to anticipate all potential objections and build it into the presentation. So as soon as the person introduced me that way, I came up and he says, you're right, I can sell anything to anybody, but I only do that when what I have to offer solves their problem. So you understand, I answered the objection, even though it wasn't asked. But if I know it's potentially there, it's my task to answer it. Okay. Well, after we overcome the objection, so so you say, well, I just don't think sales training is what I need. Potential objection, right? A, acknowledge. I can appreciate that. I acknowledge that I heard what you just said. Isolate.
I think that's an interesting aspect right there. That was a big thing that I've heard every psychologist, therapist I've ever worked with as client. That is one of their key things. Just acknowledging what the other person said. I hear you.
Yeah.
I can see how that goes.
Yeah. I can appreciate that. Isolate. Is that your only concern? Now, I isolate because I want to know what they're really objecting to. Many times the questions or objections given are simply smoke screens. They aren't the true objection. And if they have a true objection, we need to get down to the true objection. So the reason I ask, is that your only concern? It gives you the opportunity to go, no, I got a couple others. Oh, what's holding you back? Do you understand? I can ask you. You know what's holding you back. This is where people make it way too hard. If I just say to you, Jenna, what's holding you back from making this decision? Guess who knows that? You do.
Me.
Guess who can tell me? You can. Guess who can do something about it after you tell me? I can.
Me.
But I can't do anything about it unless I know what it is. But that's where, at this point, when objections come in, what too many people do from a sales side is they go back and go, well, don't you see how good a deal this is? Don't you understand it's half price? Don't you understand this is only going to last until 5 p.m. on Friday? Don't you? I don't care. 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 Don't you understand you could miss out? Yeah. So you're trying to put outward pressure on me that I could miss out. Why don't you say something about my mother? It's just about as effective. You know, your mother would make this decision. Oh God, don't bring her into it, right? Now, my point of all this is acknowledge. I can appreciate that. Is that your only concern? What is it about the thought of doing more sales training that's of concern? You're the only one who knows that answer. But as opposed to me trying to tell you how wonderful this training is going to be for you, or how much you're going to get out of it, or how much greater success you'll have, or how successful it's been for other people in the past, or I can actually address what's really going on here. Well, you know what? I just don't feel like I'm in sales, and so I'm not comfortable with sales training. Oh, gotcha. Jenna, if I could help you understand how sales is foundational in everything we do in life, would that make you more comfortable? Yeah, I think it would. Awesome. Let me share a thought with you. Selling is really no more than expressing a position about something. It's your opinion. It's your thought. It's how you, do you understand how I've taken my voice and I've brought down the tone? I've slowed down. It's a far more compassionate, I understand you don't understand what selling is. That's okay. Most people don't equate it this way. Let me help you. As opposed to, hey, don't you understand how important sales is? Crap, you're scaring the crap out of me, right? So again, this is, so when I overcome the objection, if I say, do you feel more comfortable about the entire sales process now, Jenna? Yeah, I see how much more important it is, right? So you ready to get started? So how do you ask for the order? Just like that. You ask the exact same closing question over and over and over again. Because if all of a sudden what was holding you back.
I'm going to type this out for everyone to see. What is the one closing question?
Are you ready to get started?
I want to make sure I got all the words right there.
But did you hear how it's just another part of the process? That's what I want everybody that watches this or plays this back or whatever to understand. Objections are awesome. They're welcome. Because every time I can calm an objection in your mind, it takes us another place closer to doing business together.
You know why I could see the fear there? Like when you're saying that objections are awesome. So Timothy is saying essentially he has a fear of all the rejections and ultimately the objections. And I can just remember from, I have no problems on stage. None whatsoever. Even though I'm not really comfortable in front of people, I don't like being stared at. The idea is I know my information frontwards and backwards. It doesn't matter what question you ask me, I will have an answer for it. And if nothing else, I'm perfectly comfortable with saying, I'm not positive. Let me get back with you. I've battle tested in the military. It used to be a running joke. Who can stump Jenna in one of her trainings? If you don't know your product or service inside, outside, up, every direction, when those objections come, you may not be ready for them.
Exactly.
That's
many great points right there. Many great points. So let me leverage a couple of them. You've got to be a product of your product. You've got to own your knowledge. You've got to own not only your offering, but the competitors' offerings. So as an example, do you know Kyvio inside and out? This is a question to you.
On user experience building it outside, I know it 90%.
Okay. So compared to the other quote unquote experts on that product, are you in the top 1%, 5%, 10%, 50%?
Top 0.5%.
Okay. So at the top 0.5% on how to apply the wonder they call Kyvio, you're top notch, you're top expert. So somebody now says to you, now, if that is also the product that you are taking to the marketplace, do you think if I come to you and say, hey, I've heard about Kyvio, I heard you're an expert, do I expect you to be exactly what you just said you were? Of course I do. I wouldn't come to you as a Kyvio expert if I didn't expect you to do that. Now, that's a given. And while I respect that about you and your knowledge, I kind of just expect it because you're the expert. But if I say, hey, Jenna, how does Kyvio compare to ClickFunnels, Kartra, Samcart, One Shopping Cart, that names from the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you are that comparison matrix, that's when I respect you. That's when
comparison matrix,
right? Because when you are a student of the industry, and when you
I see you're saying when I can rattle off information about not just mine, but everyone's.
Yes.
Okay.
That's when your expertise goes up. So when somebody says to me,
that's when my nerd level goes up.
Well,
that's
some would call it
big glasses.
That's right. Some would call it a nerd level. But again, that's why now let's go back to another part of answering where we were. Do you remember the day we were sitting in Business Growth Network and I had done some stuff for the group and the group started firing questions at me? And
yes.
all of a sudden you looked at me and you said, oh my God, you've got an answer for everything.
You do, like okay, the people watching now were not there, but you were getting hammered with all sorts of questions, and you had something for everything. Like I would think, like for there were so many times it was like, nah. Sometimes you just gotta let it go, Scott. Sometimes that's just not the right one for you, and you were just rattling them off.
Well, thank you. So now the reason I share this is because that's what you want in a sales trainer. You want somebody that's been there so they can translate to you as if you've been there. In other words, so that you can do the exact same thing in those situations. Now, have I always been able to do that? No, I've gotten better over time. But when you've done 2,000 live events, and after you've made an offer from stage, and you now come off stage to talk to the people who are considering purchasing that offer, there is not a question that has not been asked to my, in that environment. So I've done it so many times that it's the reason that I can answer the questions is because I've already answered the questions. As a sales trainer, I'm a process trainer. So we put in the process, and once you learn the process, it now becomes universal across products and industries. And so I don't get upset when somebody objects to something. I just go, oh, I can appreciate that. Is that your only concern? What is it about XYZ that's of concern? And then they tell me. And I go, oh, that's so helpful. Now I know, can I give you a thought on that? I gain permission. That's a process. before I answer, I get their permission to give them the answer to, because I want them to want the answer to the objection. But far too many people get into the, oh, didn't you see that in the presentation? I mean, that was slide 47 and 48. I have already addressed this. Oh my God, I can't believe you missed that. And you're sitting there going, people don't do that. Oh, yes, they do. They don't sell a lot.
All the time.
They upset a lot of people, but they do it all the time. My task as a sales professional is to communicate to you the features, advantages, and benefits of the products, goods, and services I offer to solve your needs, wants, and desires. That is 100% of my job. That's what I've been tasked with as a sales professional.
Kind of going the idea of processes, I thought it was really interesting. One of my mentors is Mike Archie. He's specific to agencies. And he was telling us about this story where his poor wife, bless her heart, she lost her job, 2 different jobs twice in one pregnancy. And she was pregnant. And so he had her ramped up cold calling for his agency. And she's not a cold caller. She's very shy. She doesn't like sales, all this stuff. But he made her this little notebook because he came from telemarketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it had the script she was going to read, and then it had tabs for all the different objections he could, immediately think of, right? And she made 243 calls the first day.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because she didn't start conversations, right? Anyone who's done calling, you can't do 243 and have good conversations. But what I thought was really interesting is, one, she didn't know what she was doing. She did what she was told. And by the way, she did all that rejection pregnant, highly emotional and pregnant. But as far as systematizing, every single time you get a question, so you shared one of the deals that I'm offering yesterday, right?
Right.
And I had shared it too, and 2 questions came up. One friend of mine, who's another agency owner, he asked, I'm a little unclear. Are you saying like everything's on your system? With this one statement I made, I'm like, it is all on my system, but that particular statement is saying I'm ensuring you get all the images. They're yours. You can use them on everything. Like you have access to them. I'm going to put them on a drive for you to steal, take, right? That would be something that can be added into the facts. It could be added into as an objection tab if you have the script going. The other one was someone was asking, how do you get the content? Do you use our stuff or do you just automatically have it and import it? Those are common questions. Just
Right.
because you're too close to our stuff, systematize. If you're on stage and you're giving your speech and you're making your pitch or you're making your pitch to a room of 30 people, write down every question, write down every objection, document them.
Well, it's interesting because you just gave me something that we need to talk about with what we're talking about this afternoon, but also on the pages that I built yesterday and sent you, is we need to have the FAQ link. Because that is exactly, again, here's the difference of a live presentation as a speaker and a digital presentation. All the necessary information is actually the exact same. How you deliver that information is different. So when I'm doing a live presentation from stage, it is, if I really want to be successful, I should incorporate in every potential objection to my offer and address it in advance of it becoming an objection. Does that make sense?
No, it does. I think about it in legal terms. If there's something bad on your side, you address it first as soon as possible. You want to be the first one to address it because you get to spin it, frame it.
Frame it is a better word.
Frame it. Frame it. Depends if you like lawyers or not.
It's still a better word. It doesn't matter whether you like lawyers or not. It's a better word. But my point is that if there is a potential objection, you are much better off making it part of your presentation. So one of the things, and it's a absolutely true statement, and I had to document it because I said it from stage, and I was a government agency made me verify it. Okay. But I said from stage, I didn't know this information until I learned it either, but I went to an event and I saw the potential of what it could do for my family and me. And so I rushed to the back of the room and I put $25,000 on a credit card before I discussed it with my wife. Absolutely true. Why do you think I said it? To take away the objection, I need to talk to my wife about this. Or it's okay to put it on a credit card. Now they came back and made me justify it, and I had actually spent $82,000 that I could document and justify that I did. Now, that $82,000 made me hundreds of thousands of dollars. So again, it's you make investments in your business to get returns in your business. If you don't make, so that was what I was saying to the audience. I've done this myself. I've ponied up and paid mentors to learn what I needed to learn to then have the opportunity to improve my life. It's the exact same thing. Okay. Now, if you're doing it from stage, you might do it that way. Whereas if you're doing it, frequently asked questions. Well, I can do this on my own. Why should I hire a mentor to do this? Very true. We live in an environment where there's a ton of information. It's not about being able to do it. It's about being able to do it right and effectively. If effectively is more important to you, I'm your girl. I'm your guy. So that's how you would answer that potentially on digital marketing through a FAQ answer, right? Mm-hmm. Because the objection is the objection. Hey, I've got my best friend Google. Are you kidding me? I don't need anybody to do this for me. Oh, you got a day stretcher? You get more than 86,400 seconds each day? Is this what you really want to spend your time doing? Right? So my point is that it's simply a matter of calling out the situation. What I've come to realize is as we're building these funnels, and I know we're training right now, but this is why the training goes with the building the funnels. If you don't understand the recipient of that funnel, if you don't understand what they're truly thinking and design your funnel to address that, you're making a mistake. Because they're going to think that one way or another, and they're going to punch out, meaning, yeah, it's an old, radio term, right? You punched from one station to another station because you didn't like a certain portion of a song. So you'd punch out and you'd go somewhere else. Well, they're going to they're going to punch out of your page to go to somebody else's page. Just as we have people that punch out of these trainings or double funnel TV, and all of a sudden they just go, oh my God, look, they're actually building a funnel. Well, that's what you actually do when you build a funnel. You actually build the funnel, and some of it takes time.
It takes time. Sometimes there's issues. I think that's the part where people get frustrated with building the funnels, is it just things happen and you gotta get over the mountain. You gotta move past.
That's what I'm looking forward to our conversations this afternoon, because I was talking with Sean last night and I said, right, wrong, and different. Number one, we're a product of the product. So we've got to have our stuff together because we're a product of the product. And the other thing is, why wouldn't we have phenomenal funnels and phenomenal process and all that. We're working with the best. So I said, this is one of those where, you know, a lot of times entrepreneurs, they learn part of it, or they learn just enough of it, or they do whatever. Just admit it. Okay, I don't know it all. Don't, you know, I want to know my area of expertise.
And it's after 10, so I'll wrap it up here. So because you were mentioning that, I just went and pulled up the analytics. Granted, I don't spend a lot of time building my YouTube channel. I was one of the beta testers, so I've kind of started going back to it after they took my monetization away. Which, by the way, if you're watching this, subscribe. 700 more subscribers, get monetization back. Our watch time, and this is mostly double funnel, because again, I'm not putting a bunch of other stuff up here. Just this month, the last 28 days specifically, has been 2,100 minutes.
That's awesome.
So imagine if you're putting your sales pitches and your closing offers on a video on YouTube to practice even.
Yeah.
And here's the thing I find on a psychological level even more interesting is I have a ton of how-to videos. We build these funnels online live. I'm looking at my top watched videos for the last month, and 1, 2, 3, 4 of them are review videos of applications, and then one of them is how to set up a Kyvio membership site. So people are predominantly deciding if they should buy applications, but they're not actually learning how to use applications.
Right. I get it.
Well,
that's why I think we can. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. I mean, we already are, but I think we'll have more fun. And I love these training. I love doing this, responding to questions, because you can sit and train and just diatribe, but it's like I'd rather address somebody's specific needs. It's fun, and it helps. You know that it's helping somebody. So.
And I hope we answered for Timothy. I hope we answered his question about closing. It's a commonly asked question.
Yep.
But if you have a question, go over to the Fembot Army for Warfare Marketing and ask your sales question. And that is what Scott's doing every single Friday.
Yep.
Answer questions.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, all. Have a great weekend.